Nice.
What's up, brother?
What's up, dude? Better than last time we tried doing this. Sure.
Smoother, smoother.
You ready to get started?
I'm ready to rock, man.
Cool.
I'm excited about this one.
I'll let you take it away.
Cool. So what we're going to talk about today is somewhat of foundational topics. Pete's going to dive into the building and some step-by-steps to nutrition. And we can swing it back and forth either way. The one thing that I wanted to hone in on, and really where I'll start, is a warm-up. It's very, very, very simple. It's something that can be overlooked. It's also something that can be extremely overanalyzed. And I think in my years so far, and given the groups that I've had to work with, I've found a few things that worked out rather well. I think the first and foremost thing is have some type of a plan, right? We can get into whatever that plan may be, but you need to have one. When I was at the college, I had large groups of individuals. So it made the most sense to work them with PVC pipes. If I had gotten smarter with it, I would have actually filled the PVC pipes with water to give them some weight. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was actually basically programming them for the certain movements that way they were going to do. We did a lot of Olympic movements. So with those pipes, I had them mimic Olympic work, squats, deadlifts, etc. On the one-on-one level, it got a little more detailed. I had one particular person, and we built it out into 3 separate categories. So to move that all back, think about being with a group of people, and think about some of these people not really knowing anything about exercise.
Possibly.
Maybe some of them do.
So I'm
Say that again,
like
Pete.
possibly having athletes of maybe like different caliber, different levels and stuff like that.
Perfect segue, man. You can have a freshman who may have never touched a weight before, and then you have the senior that's been there for 4 years and is just ready to rock. Where are you going to find the happy medium with them? Is it PVC pipes? Maybe. Is it barbells and PVC pipes? Probably better if you got a little smarter with it. Is it calisthenics and body weight? Can't go wrong with anything like that. At the end of the day, you want to make the body as if it's a jet taking off from a runway. You want to find a way to get it moving. You want to find a way to heat it up. You want to find a way to then intensify the movement, and you want to work from there. As you progress, you can also get into target areas. With the athletes, I was always looking at hips, ankles, shoulders. What were some particular moves that we can do to target those areas and get them moving, whether it be in the muscle belly or whether it be in the actual capsule of the joint, however you want to say it. But it started out extremely simple, and then it had to progress from there. And I think building from that, working on a one-on-one level, we've mastered some steps. One of the things that we do is we'll put the individual on a cardio piece, and we'll tell them, go on this at a somewhat rigorous pace, but if we were to talk back and forth, you should be able to keep conversation with me. One of the things that you want to avoid, especially if you had a beginner, is them just gassing themselves out on a cardio. And I've literally seen it. You don't think to say it, but then you look and think, oh my God, this person's going 100 miles per hour and they're going to be dead before they even hit my workout. People just don't know that, and you can't blame them for it. But the cardio piece, the main design is to heat up our core temperature. Then from there, we found ways to elongate, and we used PVC pipes. We've used stick mobility dowels. We've used a basic dowel, even though that's rather stiff. But you find ways to make that person reach to the ceiling, reach down and touch the toes. Rotate the body slowly side to side. Maybe do some squats with that piece on their back. Maybe do some dislocations for their shoulder area. Because now the body's heated up very, very well. So you want to try to lengthen and put it into positions that it may not have gotten to. And then the last step of it is we'll add a med ball to the movements, basically putting weight behind it. And with that med ball, we will increase speed, we'll make them chop, we'll make them swing it, we'll make them rotate it around their head. But at the end of the day, it's intensifying and then it's prepping. So then when they walk into their first set, you're hoping as the trainer, the strength coach, whomever, you're thinking, man, I hope they have a little bit of sweat and I hope they're exerted a bit on this.
My first question is whether, so like starting with, the cardio piece, that was like always like a question that I had, like a fundamental question is whether I should like stretch before I kind of hit that cardio piece and like go into maybe some of the more dynamic movements, or you should always kind of start with that cardio piece, whether it's like run, row, bike, jump rope, something like that, just to kind of get your muscles warm, and then you kind of go into more of that dynamic stuff.
It's an awesome question, man. And yes, I personally don't like, remember the old football days of reach and grab your quad, stretch your arm across your chest. I really don't like those static movements. I think even for me personally, when I do that, sometimes my shoulder is like crack, and it almost makes me feel worse. So I definitely would prefer a dynamic movement, some type of yoga flow. I've gotten myself into animal flow. I love the jump rope, also for the lymphatic system. That's very, very good. It's a beautiful exercise. I like that prior to the cardio work for sure. And I also like foam rolling prior to the cardio work.
And then you mentioned kind of like when you're first starting out, having a maybe like 2 or 3 set warm-ups. So you're not exactly prioritizing the warm-up specific to the exercise that you're doing that day, like, or you think your warm-up basically is all-encompassing. It'll get you warm for what you plan on doing for that session. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense, brother. And what we do in the training world and where we're at is we use the warm-up for an assessment of the person if they're a beginner. It's a very great tool for that. The way we've designed it, it works well for that too. And we use it as a full body workout in itself. So we think, okay, I'm hitting every single area. I got the shoulders covered. I got the hips and some rotation covered. I got the ankles and the knees covered in some way, shape, or form. When I was a strength coach, and this can flip-flop either way, I was deep into the world of, okay, we're doing squats, cleans, bench press today. How can I emulate my warm-up to match those exercise movements that they're going to do in their workout routine? We would do progressions of the clean movement. I worked that all the way up, and I realized it was even better, like I said, about the water and the PVC pipes. It was better for the kids to use some weight and actually feel that, to do like clean shrugs or muscle cleans. It's actually very hard to do a muscle clean with a 2-ounce PVC pipe opposed to a 15.
Without the weight, you can't get to that.
You can't get your elbows anywhere, man. I can't even do that. So it was much better to have a weighted bar.
So yeah, I kind of found that I've kind of moved to that system as well. Like with my warm-ups, I do like a fairly similar warm-up no matter what kind of exercise I'm doing, because I think I fell into that trap when I was younger of like, if I was doing leg day, I would only stretch my legs and then, not really realizing that I needed to open up my shoulders, open up my kind of mobility in my back to squat more effectively. And I think moving to that like full, dynamic mobility and, dynamic movement through my warm up, I've gotten a lot better at those movements because I'm fully warmed up instead of like what you just think you need to warm up.
Yes, man, 100%. And then at the end of the day, too, I have a baseline warm up that I can give everybody across the board if I just wanted
Yeah.
to be autopilot every single day. But then when you have particular individuals come in or particular teams, particular groups, say they have some shoulder problems, there's a warm-up designed for just really targeting their shoulders. Say you're on a track, take them through a track routine or a field routine. Say you want to do some thoracic, some T-spine, upper back work, rotational work, do it off a wall. So that's pieces of the arsenal that are always in my head or on paper and flowing as I'm flowing throughout my day. I'm pretty much at the point now where I can look at the individual and think, okay, shoulder problem, hips tight, low back issues, ba, 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 and we move forward from there. But there's always, and I had this written down, no matter what, there's always a why behind that specific routine. You have a why. We just talked about it a little bit for your basic warm-up, and then you have a why for implementing certain categories that you do before you move into the workout.
Yeah, that's just good to know for my own benefit as well. But yeah, that's kind of part of that stuff is stuff that you learn as you get older as well. But I'm glad we're kind of aligned on in that sense. So that's great. So yeah, pulling like the nutrition side of things in. I'm just gonna, again, I guess we'll just bounce back and forth because I want to just go on a
ebb and flow.
From the focus points that I want to touch on was first laying a nutritional foundation. I think that works perfectly with the idea of a warm up and finding what makes sense for you, right? So in the same way that Gary wouldn't expect a new person to come into the gym and squat 300 pounds. Like when it comes to nutrition, everyone does the extreme. Everyone expects that 300-pound squat right away. And what I mean by that is everyone goes or let's say the majority of people, they dive into some crazy diet that's incredibly, rigorous. It's tough to follow. It's completely different than the way that they normally eat. And what I kind of want to focus on today, since, the last two podcasts that we've done have kind of focused on maybe the importance of nutrition, the importance of staying physically fit and active. Now we're going to get into some like actionable things that we can work on. So my first thing that I want to touch on is, instead of jumping into that, crazy diet where if, you're eating out 4 or 5 days a week and now you're going to grocery shop and prep all of your meals, that's like trying to walk into the gym and doing a 300-pound squat with no warm-up, right? Or not being familiar. Would you say that's like an accurate kind of metaphor?
I would say it's very accurate. It's the extreme probably of most individuals, and it's just unrealistic.
So I want to get into starting and I think this is incredibly important because I really touched on this last time, but I don't want anyone to make a change unless it's something that they feel like is sustainable and something that they can basically do for the rest of their lives, right? I really don't think that these quick fixes, although they might work in the short time or in the short term, like for losing like a quick 5 to 10 pounds, you're going to gain that weight back as soon as you go to, eating the way you normally were. So I really prefer for people to make really, really small changes that, again, make those long-term results. So we talked about I'll just bring up 3 things that I think are really common, right? So if currently, let's say, a normal office worker, let's say you eat out for lunch, right? I think that's a pretty common thing. People eat out for lunch 4 to 5 days a week, right? So instead of, expecting to meal prep your every single lunch for the week, why don't you just cut that back to eating out 3 days a week and then prepping your meals for 2 lunches of the week, right? So starting with that simple approach, just like as you would go to the gym and maybe you start with a 15 to 20-minute workout before you hit that hour and a half mark, like later down the road, this is the same kind of thing. Find what works for you. In the same sense, let's go with alcohol consumption, right? So if you're someone who drinks 4 nights a week, maybe we cut that back to 1 or 2 nights a week. And then the other thing was focusing on just eating a healthier diet as a whole. So, again, if you're eating like a lot of processed foods, you're eating out a lot, you're not getting a lot of fruits and vegetables. Again, I don't expect you to start crushing salads and eating a bunch of fruit right away, right? Let's just focus on getting maybe one fruit and one vegetable a day, like keeping it as simple as possible. And then we can kind of build off of those habits. So again, that's like, I wanted to kind of relay that to the warm-up idea. Like, this is your warm-up. This is the stuff, like some of the small things that you can do to start implementing kind of long-term change. But you have to start, in my personal opinion, you really have to start small, because I really think, like, anytime I see someone going on these, super, super strict diets, I don't see it lasting long term. And even if you have like the top 1% willpower and you can stick to it, is that the way you want to live like the rest of your life, right? Because again, food's like for fueling your body, but there should be some enjoyment in it as well. Like, going out to dinner with family and friends, celebrating someone's birthday party, something like that. You don't want to be so strict where you can't do those certain types of things, right? You want to, have a well-balanced approach where if you're going to be doing X, you can do Y to kind of compensate and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
I think the coolest thing you said there for everybody listening, and it relates back to our one from last month, is just taking little pieces of it and shaping it. Someone walking into the gym and going in to do a 300-pound squat who may have not even ever touched a weight before might think, oh my God, there's like no way. There's a huge intimidation factor. But someone walking into the gym and saying, okay, I want you to step on this treadmill and I want you to walk at 2.5 miles an hour for the next 5 minutes. And then you and I are actually going to chat, and then you're going to tell me how you feel. Or if you hand them a plan, say like, hey, I see that you're munching on some Snickers. I personally love some Snickers in the day, but you're munching on some Snickers late at night at 7 p.m. or whenever. Why don't we take a day or two and we just pull that Snickers bar out? Then they look at that. That individual is going to look at that and think, oh, okay, I can do that. That's a realistic, tiny step goal. They can become tedious in both worlds. They can become very tedious in nutrition. They can become very, very tedious in working out. Both of us can attest to that for you. But if you're willing to get through that moment and you start piling them all up, before you know it, you have a practice that you may not even have known you were practicing.
Yeah,
and then you get to the bigger goals.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
I think it was great, bro. Do you have anything? The one thing I still wanted to touch on more about the warm-up is actually not ideal situations. This is something that I didn't think about early on, but as I continue in my career, it's a pretty cool topic.
I figured we'll just go back and forth on the topics. I definitely go for
it. Yeah. I'm going to flow on this one, but one of the things that I've started to notice, and I even noticed it at the school in my weight room that it was so small, is you may not have the ideal situation, or for granted here, we may have a client that is traveling and may literally have a jump rope and a mini band, or they may only have a hotel room, or they may only have a park, whatever. Bottom line is that's when you take a step away from the diagram of, okay, here's my program. I've got to do 3 muscle cleans, 5 front squats. Oh, I need a big medicine ball. Take that out of your equation so you don't stress yourself out, and just think, okay, what can I do to keep moving? Can I go for a little walk or jog around the complex outside, get my heart rate up? Can I do some pop squats? Because that hip movement mimics clean. Some of you might not even know what a pop squat is. That's okay. Can I do some pull apart, some curls? What can I do with that mini band? Oh, I got a jump rope. Let me go 30 on, 30 off for the next 2 or 3 minutes. There's always a solution to your given situation. I think the idea behind it is to not try and perfect the situation, just try and make the best out of the situation. That goes for any coach, nutritionist, anyone in the field, but also any client. I think we have a tendency to get so caught up and spiral in our own heads about where we're at and what we're doing, but just focus on what you can do and make.
What did you say? Did I lose you? Oh.
I think we had a little delay, but
no, I was just like commenting on like I love that like idea, and that's something I struggle with too, is when I'm traveling or maybe like on vacation, like still like obviously, you know, I probably don't have a weight room. So you have to just make do with what you have. So I think having a plan in those situations I think is incredibly important. So, you know, from your perspective, I think like having a body weight workout that you can do anywhere, like, you know, body weight squats, body weight lunges, push-ups, something like that is just extremely important, that you always have that kind of like go-to workout that you can do. And worst case scenario, right? Like exactly like you said, you go for a walk, or you bring your jump rope and you jump rope outside the hotel, or whatever it is. But yeah, making the best of the situation, and also knowing that, you know, 1 or 2 days deviating from your normal routine, you know, isn't going to kill you. But that's like one of the number one questions I get with a lot of clients that I work with who do travel for work, is especially ones that need to, the hardest clients that I have are the ones that they need to, like they're in some kind of marketing or sales role, possibly, where they need to entertain clients, right? So they need to take them out, wine and dine at these types of dinners and stuff like that, where it becomes incredibly, incredibly difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle for a number of reasons, right? You know, the excessive dinners, drinking, they're staying out late, you know, that kind of stuff. So how do you kind of navigate that situation? And in most cases, it is always, you know, you have to do the best you can, right? So, you know, you talk to the bartender before the event and they bring you a soda in whatever they're serving their vodka drinks in, right? So like people still think that you're maybe drinking if that's something that, you know, needs to happen. But you're just having a seltzer with lime, right? So that way you're still staying true to your goals and yourself there. You always try and find something that might be the healthiest on the menu. Like I said, that's an area I've helped people with before. They send me the restaurant menu. I give them 2 or 3 healthy options that I would personally choose. Because again, like people give you like a lot of crap for this kind of stuff, which is unfortunate in this world sometimes, where people might look down upon these people trying to, you know, achieve these health and fitness goals, or, you know, live a certain way, right? Even though more people should probably be doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that segue is great. Like, I just want to, you know, really emphasize that just do the best you can in these types of situations, rather than maybe like just being like, screw it, like this is my cheat week or cheat meal or something like that. Like, you know, I think along what we talked about last time, right? If every decision that you think about is, you know, if these are your goals, right? If you do have these health goals, is this going to make me a healthier person or not? And I think that's, you know, exactly what you're talking about as well. You might not always be in these ideal situations, but, you know, don't go crazy, but do your best to make the most of it. And in the long run, you'll be fine.
I think what's really cool though in all that, and you mentioned it, and people are probably going through this right now, is the idea of the individual that's trying to be healthy, and then the idea of everyone else around them basically making them feel like an outcast, right? We can dive down a whole other lane of that, but it's the individual that's really trying to feel healthy. So that dinner is going to be extremely stressful. But what you just did, I'm sure you know, but the way you said it, what you just did by looking at the menu, talking about an idea for a drink, you just gave them comfort. So you just basically went outside of just, oh, well, you got to eat this or you got to look at that. You went outside the analytics of it and looked at more of the environment, which took me, I'm still kind of working on that. I believe that's a major key to a lot of things, but you made them comfortable in the setting. And it's like, hey, you can still look cool and you can do this way. I'll say a right way because, again, it's not ideal, right? It all sounds good of, hey, I'm going to eat turkey burgers and a half cup of green beans for the next month, and I'm going to have an 8-pack and veins are going to be everywhere. But then what happens when you got to take a client out for dinner? What happens when you want to go party at a bachelor or bachelorette party? What happens when all those scenarios come in? Are you going to take your Tupperware with you and be the butt of all the jokes? Maybe, right? If you got thick skin, but no, most likely you're going to look for trying to make an ideal situation out of a not so ideal situation. Then in my world, it comes back to, hey man, you got a jump rope and a minivan? Cool, can work with that. Hey, you got just your body weight? Cool, can work with that. Oh, you're in a hotel? No problem. FaceTime me. Here's what we're going to do. And you lay it all out. It's creating comfort for that individual. If an individual walks into you and you look at the meal plan looks a certain way, but however it's said and portrayed feels a certain way. If someone's going to walk into a gym with me right up to a warm-up machine, that all looks a certain way, but then how it's like, hey, come on over. Here's what we got. How it's said and portrayed feels a certain way. And the feeling will last much, much longer. The feeling would also give encouragement for them to continue on the process.
Awesome. Cool. So the next thing I had was taking stuff like one step at a time. So like that one step at a time mentality, again, I know I keep harping on this, but building off the habits, incredibly important. So again, we kind of briefly mentioned like, hey, if you drink, 4 days a week, cut that back. If you eat out a lot, maybe we'll cut that back. Again, for a lot of these things, exactly what we just said, there's, not every situation is going to be ideal. Practice moderation, right? You don't need to go full throttle, especially right away. In fact, I think that's detrimental. So, when I get clients who, again, are very new to this process of, thinking about their diet, they want to maybe eat a little bit healthier. I take them through a one step at a time approach, and I start, it just kind of makes sense mentally. I always start with breakfast for them for two reasons. Number one, first meal of the day. I think it sets the tone for the rest of the day. I think it sets people on the right track for the rest of the day, because if they commit to eating a healthier breakfast, I find that they tend to commit to a healthier lunch and a healthier dinner, in the same way that people, turn a cheat meal into like a cheat day. I think the reverse happens as well in a positive way. I think if you set the tone for the day on the right way, then you're more committed to kind of sticking to that. So, starting with breakfast, I just tell them, if they've never like prepped or normally like they don't eat breakfast at all. That's a very common thing that I get. They either don't eat breakfast, or when they get into work, they have, coffee and a donut. Even my entire time working in an office setting, like there was almost always some kind of baked good or treat, in our like lobby area that people could have like every day. So that becomes like a default for people. So instead of that, I wrote down like 4 or 5 easy breakfast options, because again, I want today to be a little bit more practical, giving you guys some real world stuff that we can start doing. So all of these breakfasts take, less than 5 minutes, are super easy to throw together, and I think are a good, combination of what I would want, a good macronutrient range. So getting some, protein, carbs, and fats. So the first one that I think is the easiest is just doing some kind of smoothie. So you can have protein powder in this. You don't have to. But I think just doing like the classic protein shake isn't enough for it to be a classic breakfast. So I like doing some kind of protein smoothie in the morning where and I also like eliminating, one of my fruits, one of my vegetables. So I normally do like a cup of spinach, a cup of frozen berries, a scoop of protein powder, and then you can kind of play from there. Other stuff is Greek yogurt. You could do peanut butter, oats, anything like that. But make like a solid smoothie, like breakfast smoothie in the morning. Again, that takes 2 minutes to throw in a blender, throw together, and now you have a good, 300, 400, 500 even calorie breakfast that's super easy to take down, super easy to have, before the gym or on your way to work. The second one was like an overnight oats. So if I make an overnight oats, I usually pair that with like a hard-boiled egg, so I'm getting some protein in there. So overnight oats, again, you can play with that in any sense that you want, but I usually do about a half cup of old-fashioned oats, 1 cup of milk of your choice. So you can do animal or plant-based, coconut milk, almond milk, cashew milk, something like that. And then from there, you get creative, right? You can do a 1/4 cup of blueberries, strawberries. You can do Greek yogurt in that as well. You can do chia seeds, flax seeds, right? So any kind of, apple, cinnamon, just play around with that. I think that's a great option. Again, you can make a bunch of those in little mason jars. Those are ready to go for the next day. And again, like I said, you pair that with a hard-boiled egg, you get some protein and fat in there, good to go. Next two are just like either do like a Greek yogurt or a cottage cheese, add some berries, add some banana, something like that. Again, quick and easy, good to go. And then the last one was just a piece of toast, an English muffin, a bagel. You do that with some peanut butter and then like a sliced up apple or a banana. And I think those are, 4 or 5 super easy breakfast options that you can do. You can do in a hurry. It doesn't require a lot of cooking. Most of that stuff you can prep the night before as well. And then, yeah, like I said, building off those habits. So again, today just bring up like the breakfast option, but now that we kind of, if the client can kind of commit to making those breakfasts, 3, 4, 5 days a week, then we kind of build off of that. They get some easy meal prep ideas going, and then we build into lunch and dinner. And then how I really like to structure that is tonight's dinner becomes tomorrow's lunch, right? So you're already doing the work, cooking and cleaning the dishes for tonight's dinner. Just make a little bit extra so that way you have lunch for tomorrow, and boom, you just knocked off like another another lunch like off the table there. So again, I think it seems really daunting in the beginning, being like, wow, I have to grocery shop, I have to get all this stuff, and then I have to meal prep everything, and then I have to cook and wash the dishes and all this kind of stuff, right? It is like in the beginning, it's going to feel like a lot, but there are these like little tips and tricks that you can do in the same way of going to the gym, right? Where if you're completely new to the gym and you walk in and you see all these equipment, you see all the dumbbells, the barbells, all the different machines, right? It's completely overwhelming until you have a plan of attack, right? You have a program where you can go in and hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z today. It should be the same thing like with the nutrition side as well, where, you have your kind of grocery list established, and then you kind of start feeling out, hey, what works with my schedule, right? So like, what is the day that I'm the least busy that I could commit to going grocery shopping and maybe doing a little meal prep, right? For a lot of people, that comes on a Sunday. Maybe you have like a little bit less to do that day. It's also a great way to kind of get situated for the week, so you're going to have a great Monday to start off the week, stuff like that. But again, a little information there. Again, tried throwing out some like practical recipes, but that's kind of how I would start. If you're brand new and you want to start getting that health kick going, maybe just tackle breakfast alone, right? We're just going to think about meal prepping breakfast, keep doing what you've been doing for lunch and dinner, and then, over time, we'll keep moving from there.
For those watching, forgive us if we feel like we're going to jump through the screen because of our excitement, but we just can't help. We can't help it. But I think that information was incredible, brother. And I think the coolest thing behind all that, and something that is very simple, took me, I don't know about you, and you can share, but it took me a good while to understand, is what you're doing with that system is you're giving people options. If you have A, B, and C, and D, okay? Let's say Jimmy is brand new and really scared, intimidated, whatever. Come on in. We can do this. We can do that. We can do that. We can do that. Oh, well, I like that. Cool, brother. That's going to move you forward. We're going to go that way. It's not until whomever may be dialed with you for 5, 8, 10 years, whatever, or they have a competition coming up, or they want to get to a certain level where it's like, look, this is written in stone, and okay, for now, we're going to do this. That takes a mindset, that takes consistency, that takes months, years of experience. The same thing goes into fitness. If we provide options options on warm-up routines, options on workouts, meaning the person saying, you're not locking me into that? No, I'm not. I just want you to move forward for now. I may lock you into that if we stay together long enough and your goals and everything match up. But right now, you pick what you like. You pick what's going to work best based on your daily scenarios, and we will move forward that way. That's how we have progress. I think that's a great way to get a beginner, an intimidating individual, or just someone who doesn't have the confidence yet built up rather fast and the ball moving forward. It took me a minute. I started out in this world as a strength coach where it was like, bam, this is my weight room. This is what we're going to do. A lot of power and things came with that. But you realize when you come out of that world, and even when you're in that kind of world, there's give and take of walking the line. It's not so black and white or straight, literally down the middle, if you will. And I think that's fabulous. I think that leads to success in a lot of things.
I think that's a great point, because in the college like weight room setting, like, you're kind of the boss, you're telling these kids what to do, and I think that works in that situation. I think it's a lot different when you have a high paying one-on-one client, where it's like a real change of game. So yeah, again, there's always navigating kind of some of that stuff, but I think that's awesome. And what was I going to say? It's happened to you last time.
It'll come to you. It'll come to you. Hopefully it doesn't come to you before we leave. But on my end, I covered the main topics. I think even for the individual, if you're not the coach and you're going through it as a client, as an athlete, whatever, still understand the whys to the particular warm-ups you're doing. It's very, very important to not go through the motions on them, to ask questions, to think, and corny as it sounds, try to connect to wherever the individual may want you to, and realize that there can be steps to the process based on the training day, based on the overall goals, based on the environment and the situation. And then also, most importantly, just realize at the end of the day, it could become very, very simple. You can get a warm-up done by jogging around your apartment complex, doing a set of body squats, a set of reverse lunges, push-ups, and 2 minutes of jump rope. You're ready to rock. That may take 5 or 6 minutes total. It could take less if you wanted to. I think it is very important to do something to get the body moving. Maybe you don't get it heated up, but at least you keep it going and you're ready to come into that workout with a jet takeoff philosophy. You're not just coming right in and trying to squat 300 pounds. That'll be very intimidating, very potentially risky, and just not an ideal situation.
Yeah, it was about like the choices idea, and exactly like when I was coaching, I would give people like for warm up, the row, bike, run, jump, something like that. I think what you said about the choices, as far as like what I tell people or what I ask people to kind of like eat in the morning, it's like I've written complete like full meal plans for people, and it's so like it's a ton of work, and almost every single time, like no one actually wants that, right? They might think that they want that, but they don't want, like, because I'm not the one grocery shopping for them. I'm not going to be the one cooking for them. It is so difficult unless you're like a rigorous, like professional bodybuilder, right? To have to worry about like eating these exact specific portions, these exact specific foods. And I think that's what you just got at too, is if your goals are to be healthy and fit, you don't need to take that complete like rigorous approach, right? Like you can achieve all of your health and fitness goals and still living like living in that moderation, right? Having that moderate lifestyle, still prioritizing these types of things, but you don't need to always go like that full throttle approach. So again, I think giving people those choices in, through workouts, right? Hey, how are you feeling today? Do you want to do this movement or this movement? Hey, what are the types of foods that you enjoy? oh, so you hate broccoli? That's fine. We can find another green vegetable for you to eat. Right? You know what I mean? Like same type of thing.
I, I agree, man. The choices are a major key. Options on the table can lead to success. Now, there's still got to be a degree of
Of
commitment.
course, yeah.
There's got to be a degree of purpose and intention with all those options, but at least they're there. And you're able to progress the person, not only physically, but mentally, as far as their discipline, as far as their push, if you're talking about a weight room or training session. And over time, then you slim down or advance the options, or given a scenario, if someone is going into a CrossFit competition with the intention to win, if someone is entering a
Yeah,
bodybuilding
then
competition, that's where the lines
yeah,
get a little more black and white.
exactly. That's awesome. Cool.
Work up to it.
Do you have anything else? I just have one more.
I am all done, man. This is
Okay.
your show right now.
No, just like the last thing I put at the end of that Instagram post, I think I just want to touch on common, pitfalls when you're, going through this nutrition process. So the first one was, something that we've talked about throughout this session here today, but it's just going, again, the first pitfall I think is just going too hard in the beginning, right? Again, take that moderate approach, warm up in the gym in the same way you'd warm up, about your nutrition, right? Take it slow, build habits that you can work on instead of going on these crazy diets that are completely unsustainable. The next biggest pitfall I find when I work with people is going on these like diet trends, right? Whether that's keto in the most recent years, low carb in past years, fasting, like juice cleanses, like liquid diets. I always hear about all these, crazy different diets that people go on. And, in theory, can they work for people? Yes. But again, I really preach that I don't think anyone should be doing these like unsustainable things that are so out of the norm if they want, long-term, health habits, that kind of stuff. Right. So in most cases, I would avoid these types of diets, just because, I don't think that they logically make sense. In most cases, they kind of, they get you in a caloric deficit, but I don't think it's the healthiest way to go about doing it. And I don't think they're sustainable. The last one is, I get a lot of people who they're crazy strict during the week, right? So like they're super rigorous, they go super hardcore during the week, and then they blow it out on the weekends, right? So what I don't like to see there is people suffering, and they hate, eating like this healthy food that they don't make in a delicious way or anything like that, right? So they suffer all week long, and then on the weekends they drink excessively, they eat out 3 or 4 times, right? So I don't think that's a healthy or sustainable way to go about achieving, long-term health and fitness goals as well, right? I'd much rather a more balanced and sustained approach, where, again, you don't restrict yourself so much during the week that you need to blow it out on the weekend to feel like you're letting off steam. Why don't you just take a more well-balanced approach, throughout the week as well, so that you don't feel like you need to go and like let off all that steam or eat all that junk food. And again, I think that comes back to my saying of, it's totally fine if you want to. I don't even like the idea of like the whole cheat meal thing. I think everything in moderation is fine. Again, dial it into where you want as far as like where your health and fitness goals are. I do that with my life, right? So for example, like I had my CrossFit competition a couple weeks ago. So for about 2 weeks, I really dialed it in. I made sure I was tracking my macros, my calories. I cut out all alcohol, stuff like that, because I had that competition going up and I wanted to perform well. So, but, normally I just take that, moderate, well-balanced approach, as opposed to, that very strict during the week and then going crazy on the weekends. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, that's just the main things. Just because I had that on the slide, just wanted to come up with a couple, common pitfalls that I think people experience. But if you want to see long-term progress, again, it sounds simple, right? Just keep building these healthy habits, and then keep building on those from week to week, month to month, and then that's again how you see that long-term sustainable change and getting to where achieving your goals or getting your body, kind of where you want it to be.
The only thing I'll add to that, it can go on both fronts, any front, is don't realize it's a roller coaster. And especially in the beginning, don't let the bad days lead to give up days or just giving up in general. It's not going to be ideal. You're going to have bad moments. You're going to have days where you think it sucks. You're going to have days where you think it's not good or you're not good at it. It's very, very important to build up resilience and consistency to get through those days, because they're going to be better ones at it, and you will, as long as you practice and you stay determined, you will get better at it.
I think that's great, and I think that's relevant to with going to the gym, right? So say you have a couple long days at work, maybe you didn't make it to the gym for like 2 days in a row. That doesn't mean like your week is shot, right? Do what you can. Maybe you can go for a walk when you get home at night, or you can maybe do a double session on a future day, something like that. But again, do your best to make it work. That's kind of what we're preaching here, right? Is just figuring out how to accommodate with your lifestyle. Everyone has a crazy job, a crazy schedule. If you constantly, prioritize, these small things, then, long term, you'll get those results. But yeah, I think that's a great point.
Beautiful, bro.
Cool.
That was fantastic.
I think we got some applicable information out today and got some good stuff.
Some good stuff. Nobody jumped through the screen, so that's fantastic.
It makes fun of me.
At least not
I get too excited, I guess.
Hey, I do it too, man. I do it too. There's passion in the voice. Yeah. That's what everybody wants to hear. But brother, thank you. This has been a blast. I look forward to the one next month, and I hope more listeners tune in. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I will be posting these on YouTube. So I'll get them to Gary as well. But my YouTube channel is just N2 Nutrition and Performance. So either on here you can message us at Gary Gall or at Nasazi Nutrition. And again, really appreciate it. We did get a couple people who messaged us last time about some topics that they wanted us to cover in future videos. So if anyone listening still has any topics that they want to, touch on or want us to focus on in specifics, then we would love to do that for you. And yeah, we appreciate everyone watching. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, everybody else.
Cool.
Tune in.
Thanks, brother. See ya.
See you later, brother. Bye-bye.